It is in the quiet places between words, in the passing looks that linger a fraction too long, that there is a language older than the voice. The unconscious conversation of real love. When a man is truly in love, his spirit communicates in 1,000 unseen motions that the majority pass by unheeded, like rumors in a storm. This is not attraction. It's the deep realization of that Carl Jung referred to as the lover archetype, that ancient energy that remakes a man from within, making him both stronger and weaker than he has ever been. Try to envision for a moment that there exists a man who cannot help but think about you. Your face is always in his mind, your name ringing in his thoughts every day, even though he attempts to conceal it, or maybe he does not even perceive it. His posture, his movements, and the aura around him have already expressed more than enough. He is entirely emotionally engaged, but you don't realize it. Why? Because you've been conditioned to watch for words and guarantees, yet authentic male desire lies in the silent code, a language that not many women are able to interpret. Carl Jung, the greatest psychologist in history, found one very interesting thing about the masculine mind. If a man loves a woman very much, his unconscious goes into a state beyond his control, sending uncontrollable messages that cannot be faked. The irony is that over 90% of women misread these signals, mistaking real interest for transitory games, or outright ignoring a deeply in love man simply because they don't recognize the secret language of masculine attraction. Have you ever understood that odd feeling, that one where you have the sense something is not quite right, when a man professes interest, but his behavior indicates otherwise, or vice versa, for you? He's never made his feelings plain, but somewhere deep within, you sense there's more to it. It's not a coincidence or a random fantasy. It's your subconscious picking up messages your conscious mind can't yet decipher. What I'm about to share with you are not tricks of seduction or manipulations. It's something far more profound. I'm going to show you what actually goes on in a man's mind when he meets a woman who sparks in him, something greater than mere physical attraction, an attachment that transcends the logical. There's a pattern, an inside language of his gestures, glances, silences, and attitudes when an emotionally involved man is concerned. And once you've learned to read those cues, you'll never be misled or confused by genuine masculine intentions. The trouble is, most women search in the wrong direction. They anticipate big, sweeping gestures when they should be noticing the little things that say it all. Jung found that every man has within him the lover archetype, a strong force that when turned on alters his actions in a manner he himself can't perceive. It cannot be pretended. It's a natural, primitive reaction based in the depths of the masculine unconscious. What I'm about to tell you has the ability to completely change the way you view men in your life. It will show you things that maybe you already know deep down, but never quite knew. Listen carefully, because these signs are subtle, yet undeniable. A man might attempt to cover it up, justify it, but his body and his actions will always tell the truth about what he's feeling. The contrast between a man who is merely looking for physical attraction and one who is emotionally attached is vast. One vanishes at the first obstacle, the other becomes more devoted. One keeps you in loops of doubt and apprehension, the other provides you with stability and security. One lives in the present moment, the other visualizes you in his future. These distinctions become apparent through certain behaviors which were discovered by Jung in his researches into the human psyche. Behaviors which I'm about to unveil to you today, so you never again have to wonder what a man truly feels. What I am going to tell you is not contained in mainstream self-help books or in superficial discussions on relationships. It's profound insight derived from the comprehension of masculine psychology, which is not readily available to most people. Are you prepared for a revelation that will change your love life? Have you ever considered why some women easily pull a man into commitment and others fall for shallow and temporary relationships? The reason is not in what they look like or what they say or do habitually. The answer is in something much more profound, the skill of picking up on and reacting to unconscious cues a man gives off when he's really into you. Carl Jung, after decades committed to the deep analysis of the human mind, learned something telling about men's behavior. he found that it's not controlled by consciousness, but by deeper forces beyond his control. To Jung, there exist patterns of behavior that are universal, and he referred to them as archetypes, that are fundamental images drawn from humanity's shared unconscious, and that mold our actions, thoughts, and feelings. Of all the archetypes, the strongest in a man's mind is the lover. Once it has been triggered, something remarkable occurs in him. It is not merely interest or attraction, it's a primal bonding that transcends rational resonating on much lower levels. It's like something ancient and primal stirs in him, something that totally revolutionizes his conduct, even without him being consciously aware of what's occurring. The issue is that contemporary society has conditioned men to suppress emotions right from childhood. They learn under the slogan, "Men, don't cry, be strong, don't demonstrate weakness." These messages are reiterated continuously, building a wall between what they feel and what they say. And so, as a result, most men, though much in love, struggle with saying what they feel. But Jung found something remarkable. The body never lies, whereas the conscious mind can censor and monitor words. The unconscious expresses itself in body and behavioral cues that are virtually impossible to falsify. It is in the language of the body and of action where the real secret lies, and few women succeed in reading these cues correctly. Suppose you come across a man who gives you mixed signals. Perhaps he says he's interested, but keeps away from you for days. Or perhaps he never mentions his heart, but is always available when you need him most. Of the two, who is actually emotionally committed? Words deceive, but action is always the real exposé. There is a biological and psychological reason behind this phenomenon. Recent neuroscientific research has validated what Jung had only intuitively sensed. When a man is truly in love, his brain releases a singular blend of neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin that strongly influence his behavior and create patterns that he himself cannot consciously dictate. Dopamine, for instance, is linked to the feeling of reward and pleasure. When a man is emotionally invested, his brain associates your presence with this chemical, creating a nearly addictive desire to be with you. This is not an intellectual choice, but a chemical reaction that compels him to find you, even when other demands call him. Oxytocin, the hormone of bonding, is released during times of physical and emotional intimacy. This neurotransmitter forms a biological connection, so that the man will feel the natural urge to guard you, take care of you, and be around you. It's no accident that an extremely committed man exhibits protective behaviors. It's his biology reacting to that profound emotional connection. The question is, how do you distinguish between a man who only wants physical attraction and one who is truly emotionally committed? How do you sort out those who only tell you what you want to hear versus those who actually feel something deep? Jung worked on the idea of synchronicity, these meaningful coincidences that, even though they appear to be related, are not for understandable reasons. When a man is really connected with you, these synchronicities start occurring. He calls you, you were just thinking of him. When you hear from him, you find unexpected commonalities in your lives, like there is some unseen force coordinating your worlds. Most often, though, these women disregard such implicit cues, looking for only the explicit, demanding grand proclamations of love or public displays of affection, when in fact, genuine masculine commitment is expressed in the little things of daily life, in nearly imperceptible choice, in moments that to anyone else are only a split second longer than usual. Think that you're discussing something in a group, and you mention offhandedly a book you read some years ago, and that reserved man who has had little to say suddenly fixes you with an intensity you cannot understand. That is the kind of move that shows his real interest. A subtle but strongly expressive cue. Weeks afterward, he brings up the book you had discussed years ago in conversation. It is not just a coincidence. It's a good indicator that your words have marked a trace in his mind, that you hold a significant position in his thoughts. Psychic presence is what Jung would call it, when one is so present in our mind that even when he or she is away, their trace is felt. The major blunder most women commit is misunderstanding sexual attraction with a profound emotional connection. Physical attraction is immediate, an instant response governed by chemistry and looks, but the emotional connection is developed slowly and steadily, layer upon layer, coming forth in patterns of behavior that are unperceived. A man may be lusting for a number of women simultaneously, but when he is deeply emotionally involved with one, his attention radically shifts. He starts to regard her not merely as a source of physical gratification, but as an integral part of his existence, his future, his own identity. It's a deep change that pervades even the most insignificant choices, ones that on the surface have nothing to do with the relationship. Jung said that every individual has, within their unconscious, an idealized form of their partner, what he called the may in men and the animus in women. When a man meets someone who reflects that image of his may, something powerful happens within him. He feels complete, as if he had found the piece that was missing, that part of himself he had been looking for. This connection does not depend on physical attraction or social compatibility. It's something that resonates deeply at the soul level. The interesting aspect of this relationship is that it doesn't have to be said in order to exist. Actually, many men feel so deeply connected that words just won't do. That's why they turn to acts, gestures, and body language that speak straight to their unconscious. Here comes the question of question. What are those particular behaviors? How do we recognize those unmistakable signals that betray genuine emotional involvement? What does a man do when he is fully in love beyond what he communicates through language? There are patterns, series of actions that Jung uncovered in his research on love and desire, universal actions that cut across cultures and eras. They are embedded deeply in the masculine collective unconscious and are unfalsifiable signals in that they arise from the very lowest levels of the psyche. They are broken down into three broad categories, which I shall unveil below. They are deeds which signify not just a transient interest or surface attraction, but a real emotional engagement with the potential to endure and deepen with the passage of time. The most astonishing fact is that most men do not fully realize these behaviors. They are acting under the drives that are internal to them and are not fully comprehended by them. It's like something within them led them to act in these ways. When they meet that special woman who triggers their lover archetype. This is the most important moment of this revelation. And now I will tell you the unmistakable signs that show whether a man is actually in love according to Carl Jung's research on the masculine unconscious. These are not habits one can easily copy and sustain by a person who does not have a true connection. They are spontaneous expressions of the unconscious that reveal what is actually going on in the deepest recesses of the masculine mind. The most important and powerful indication is in his eyes. Jung learned that the eyes are a window to the soul, and when a man is emotionally invested, his manner of gazing at you completely changes. It's not merely a gaze of lust, though that might be there too. It's a glance of profound recognition, as if he could see past your physical self, connecting with your spirit. Science today has testified to what Jung intuitively suspected. When we are standing in front of a person with whom we feel an intimate connection, our eyes automatically dilate. This autonomic nervous system-controlled reflex is absolutely impossible to simulate. A man can deceive with words with whatever he wills, but his eyes will always tell the truth. He will lock his eyes with yours for longer than usual, as if to remember every feature of your face. Even in a crowded place, his eyes will find yours, like a compass that never loses its bearing. Most telling is when he watches you without him even knowing you're aware. Maybe you catch him watching you, when he believes you're not looking, seeing how you approach other individuals, the way you smile, the way you walk. It's not an intrusive or uneasy stare, it's a look of real fascination, as if every one of your movements was some kind of masterpiece he can't help but gaze at. The second indicator is in the way he manages his space and time. Jung found that when we feel strongly attached to an individual, we automatically rearrange our own lives to make room for them, without realizing how very telling such actions are. He starts making room for you in his life, not because he has to, but because there is an inner compulsion. He reschedules, changes plans, rearranges priorities, all with the goal of being there when you want him, or just to share more time. He doesn't leave for days without explanation. He's not too busy to message back. He doesn't make last-minute cancellations without a valid excuse. More importantly, is the way he handles his physical space. Jung noted that we gradually close physical distance with those with whom we are emotionally connected. An emotionally invested man will be drawn into your personal space near magnetically. His body will lean in towards you when he speaks in a group of people. Even his feet will face in the direction of you, trying to find subtle means of closing the distance between you, not in an invasive manner, but as if he had an unseen pull towards you. Also notice how he behaves towards your touch, even a casual one, like a tap on the arm or a greeting hug. Those brief moments say so much more than they actually do. Neuroscience research has indicated that a touch between two emotionally close individuals releases oxytocin at much greater levels than between strangers. This chemical reaction is entirely involuntary and manifests itself in delicate signals, pupil enlargement, a small flush of the skin, shifts in respiration, and rising body temperature. They are barely perceptible nuances, yet they embody a far greater truth than words can possibly convey. The third indicator, and perhaps the most compelling one, is selective memory. Jung found that our unconscious constantly sifts information, only holding on to what it deems important. A man emotionally invested in you creates an almost photographic memory for information that ties him to you, information other individuals wouldn't even pay attention to or soon forget. He recalls conversations you've had weeks earlier. He recalls minor preferences you shared. Incidentally, he picks up on when you modify something about your appearance, a new haircut, a different shirt. These aren't recollections. He makes a deliberate effort to commit to memory. His mind auto-registers them because you are now a priority in his thought process. This effect is even more telling when he makes a reference to something you once said that even you have forgotten. Maybe a dream you shared, a fear you confided, or a childhood memory you casually dropped. When he does this, it's not because he wishes to impress you, but because that piece of information has actually taken hold in his mind, having a special place of its own in his memory. The fourth, also very informative indication, is emotional openness. Jung used to think that the real meeting of two individuals takes place only when both relax their shields and become themselves. Men are trained since childhood to conceal their emotions, to present a mask of absolute hardness. When a man starts opening up his vulnerabilities, fears, dreams, and failures to you, he does something very uncommon. He is bringing down the wall that shields him from the world. This exposure need not always happen through grand emotional confessions. It can take place in tiny little moments, when he shares a work worry, when he shares a dream that he had never shared with anyone before, or when he allows you to glimpse a side of him that he typically keeps concealed from everyone. It's like he's conveying to you wordlessly, "I have such trust in you that I'm willing to reveal to you who I am." The fifth indication can be seen in the way he includes you within his social group. Jung pointed out that we bring into ourselves people with whom we feel a profound sense of connection. An engaged man wants you to be included in everything in his life, not only intimate moments. He presents you to his best friends, discusses you with his relatives, invites you to significant celebrations, family customs, and gatherings with important individuals in his life. He does not conceal your presence from everyone who matters to him. Conversely, he speaks to you with a palpable pride, as though your being in his life is a precious accomplishment he wishes to tell the world about. The sixth telling indicator is how he envisions the future. Jung learned that our sense of time is heavily determined by emotional attachments. A man who is emotionally invested, of course, starts imagining a future where you belong. Even if you are in the beginning of this relationship, he discusses future plans that usually involve you being around. He brings up future vacations, the things that will happen in months, like it's certain that you would be together in those situations. It's not force and imposition, it's a spontaneous addition, as if the thought of a future without you wouldn't even occur to him. Even more telling is when he speaks about his life projects, his dreams and aspirations. and you notice that somehow he has already added you to that landscape. Maybe he says something about what the perfect house for the two of you would be, or how he would love to share his hometown with you one day. They are not manipulations or empty promises. They are real insights into how he already considers you on his life's trajectory. The seventh sign, Jung, listed as one of the strongest, is the protection instinct. It is not a matter of control or ownership, but a deep interest in your welfare, both physical and emotional. It is an act so ingrained in the masculine unconscious that it takes on surprising subtleties. An involved man shows real concern when you are having a problem. His help not to boast or score points, but because he simply can't stand to watch you in pain. He is attentive to changes in your mood, noticing when something is not right, even before you mention it. He anticipates your needs, not out of obligation, but because your well-being has become a priority within his value system. Jung described how this protective action is a result of what he termed the guardian complex, a psychic functioning which becomes operative whenever we meet a person we value and cannot do without. It's not an act deliberately chosen by a man, it is an involuntary reaction of his unconscious, when he sees in you a person who stirs in him his most fundamental impulse of care and guardianship. The eighth indicator, and maybe the most telling, is consistency over time. Jung noted that we can pretend to do nearly any activity for a short amount of time, but our true self will always come out eventually with the passing of time. A man can pretend to be interested, attentive, and concerned for a few weeks or months, but if there is not an emotional connection, sooner or later the act will drop. A truly engaged man has the same energy, the same curiosity, and the same focus all the time. There are no those familiar patterns of coming and going that typify shallow relationships. He does not show up with passion for 2 weeks and then be absent for days without comment. His actions are regular, dependable, and predictable, not because they are dull, but because they are real. Now that you understand these eye-opening indicators of an irretrievably in love man from Carl Jung's research, it's time to consider how this applies straight to your life. It isn't theory. It can profoundly change the way you connect, what you decide, and how you understand masculine actions all around you. If you do have a man in your life who always shows you these 8 signs that I've described, know that this is something that is extremely uncommon. Most people live their entire lives and never have such a strong connection. What you're holding in your hands is something more than physical attraction or superficial compatibility. It's an unconscious resonance, a coming together of unconscious minds, which Jung would term a genuine discovery. Conversely, if you're attached to someone who shows none of these signs, or shows them spasmodically, then it's time for a frank reality check. I'm not saying drop the relationship at once, but that you realize the key distinction between an ephemeral fancy and genuine emotional engagement. Most women spend valuable years of their lives hoping that a man who is only superficially attracted to them will grow into something meaningful. Jung reminds us that love does not have to be coerced. It comes naturally where there is genuine compatibility. And you might wonder, what if he demonstrates some signs, but not all? Jung was convinced that real love is an integral phenomenon that influences all spheres of behavior, but each human being manifests his emotions in their own way. Consistency in the long run is the key. The sincerity of demonstrations. One true gesture is worth 1,000 empty words or invented behaviors. Let's now observe your own life. How often have you disregarded your instinct as to a man's real emotions because he used the correct words? How many times were you swept away by promises that were never sustained by actual deeds? The information you have learned today enables you to never again be tricked by hollow words or by expecting he will at last get emotionally involved. The reality that was found by Jung and what I am telling you today is that an actually in love man does not have to be persuaded to show up, to be dependable, or to prove that he cares. He does it effortlessly, compelled by unconscious forces much stronger than his logical will. If you catch yourself having to beg for attention, set rules or ultimatums, or repeatedly second-guess his feelings, That is already a cue that the intense emotional connection is just not there. But knowledge comes with such a big responsibility. If you recognize these signs with a man, it is important that you react with equal authenticity. Jung felt that real relationships are a two-person dance, where the two individuals expose themselves fully to one another. If a man is showing vulnerability, openness, and true commitment, but you have emotional walls up due to fear or previous experience, that precious bond can be sacrificed. There is something profoundly freeing about being able to read these signs accurately. You will never again have to wonder if you are getting a man's feelings right. You will never again be forced to rely on words or vows alone. You will have absolute faith in your ability to tell the difference between superficial interest and deep love. This knowledge totally removes manipulations and games of power from relationships. If you can identify a really interested man, do not need to check his feelings. You can be yourself without jealous provocations or tricks to keep him interested. You realize that the connection is genuine and that you don't require tricks or manipulations to keep it alive. Besides, this knowledge saves your heart. Imagine how many broken hearts and disappointments would not have occurred if every woman understood how to recognize these signs from the very start. How much time and emotional capital is lost in relationships that never stood a chance to develop into something profound and lasting. Jung felt that discovering someone with whom we share an authentic connection is one of the most life-changing events of human existence. It's not just about romance or companionship. It's about personal growth, spiritual evolution, and the realization of our highest potential. When a man gives these 8 signs, he is not merely telling you that he loves you, he is inviting you to embark on a journey of discovery, learning, and reciprocal transformation. As we stand at the threshold of knowing, remember this: what we have uncovered is not just a cluster of behavior, but an insight into the holy design of human bonding. Jung once described the encounter of 2 personalities as akin to the meeting of 2 chemical compounds. If there is any result, both are changed. This change, this soul alchemy, is life's greatest secret and its greatest blessing. The 8 signs we've learned are not just tools for reading another person's heart, but reflections of our own ability for deep connection. When you see these patterns, you're not merely observing behavior, you're watching the unconscious choreography of an ancient dance, as old as humankind, the powerful, vulnerable choreography of a soul reaching toward that which it sees as home. Don't forget that in an age more and more controlled by the surface and the instant, the skill to read the deeper human emotion is both novel and a revolution. It is an act of great resistance to a culture that has lost the ability to look past surfaces. To truly see another's unspoken language of love is to be part of an old wisdom that goes beyond our current befuddlement concerning connection. The greatest surprise may not be that these signs are there, but that when they are seen and respected, they establish a resonance between 2 individuals that changes both in ways each could not do on their own. This is not romance alone. It is the consciousness awakened by the miracle of true human connection. Then look again at the relationships in your life with these new eyes. What silent symphonies have you been missing? What wordless declarations have gone unheard? And most importantly, when these authentic signals do come, will you have the courage to respond, not with games or strategies, but with the authentic truth of your own being? For ultimately, to be fully seen and fully known is the deepest craving of the human soul. And in that seeing lies not only the key to the mystery of love, but to the mystery of what it means to be fully, gloriously human. The journey goes on.